but it came back that sorry, it came back that I did have endometrial cancer. Hey guys, my name is Jessie, and I'm new to this whole YouTube thing, but I figured I'd like to start tracking my progress and how things go, and if any obstacles come in my way, just to kind of share with other people that may be going through the same process, and kind of just share my whole experience. So, starting with my early childhood, I've always been a big girl. Family is full of big people, and around, I want to say, high school, freshman year, I started working out. Me and my best friend were riding bikes every day and um, working out every day with school. PE. They made us do weightlifting and swimming. I was on the swimming team and ended up getting really fit. My highest weight I've ever been is 350. The lowest is 160. And again, by sophomore year, I had dropped down to 160 and kept the weight off pretty much all through high school. Met my husband in 2008, and when we started dating, I kept the weight off pretty good too. Then I got pregnant with my son, and that's pretty much where my weight just started spiraling. Uh, Back when I was younger, they did tell me that having a kid would be something difficult. My hormones were never on level. They were always either too high or just all out of whack. So that was always something that worried me. And you go to high school, you want to start dating, you want to lose weight and whatever. Everything that goes through a girl's mind. So when I did end up getting pregnant with my son, it was the happiest day of my life, and we were excited, scared. I was 18 at the time, so obviously I was scared because it was a new experience and at such a young age. But I was just ready to take on the challenge. Fast forward, I have my son, and now I went from 160 to I think close to 220, maybe a little higher. Started having problems with preeclampsia and pre-diabetic. My thyroid has been acting up ever since also. Just weight started slowly gaining and gaining on, and you lose track of time and always say, oh yeah, I'll work out, get it off, and just never happened. It's always excuses. New Year's resolution for everyone. You're always gonna try and do it again next year or do it next month or whatever. There's always an excuse. But a few years back, I want to say 2014, is when me and one of my best friends started going to the gym every day, and we were going for 2-3 hours a day. And I noticed that I would drop maybe 20 pounds, gain 5, or drop 15 pounds, gain another 10, and just I couldn't keep the weight off. It was always something that would come back. I noticed that my menstrual cycle was never normal. After my son, I would have periods of times where it would be 6 months and I would bleed every day, and I would go to the doctor and they'd just give me more pills and more pills and more pills to try and get that to stop. I noticed that the weight was just coming on faster. I was feeling tired. Things weren't just adding up, and it was obviously I was going through a lot of doctor's visits, and no one can give me definite answers, and different things was happening, and everything was just, oh, you gotta lose weight. So I really tried at that time to work out hard and do like I did before, and try and get the weight off, and it just wasn't possible. It wasn't happening. So in 2017, was when I went and got a biopsy done because my periods just wouldn't stop. And everything came back that everything was fine, and just my um, stress test came back abnormal. Immediately, as soon as they put me in the machine, it came back abnormal. So I had to have a cardiac catheterization. And when they went in, they said everything was fine. But that was kind of one of my breaking points where I was having heart palpitations and just everything was going on. That was freaking me out because now I have a small child and, so many complicated things going on. And at the time I want to say 24 or 25. And it was just a really freaky situation. So fast forward, I find out that I have parathyroid mass in my neck that is large, and they had to go and do surgery. And I don't think you can see it, but I do have a scar here, so they had to completely cut my neck open to explore what was going on because all the tests wouldn't show it. But my numbers were super high and they just needed to see what was going on. So they did what's called a parathyroid exploration, and they ended up going in there and finding a huge mass. And thank God it wasn't cancerous, but they did say that it was good that they went in when they did to take it out. I had that done. Like I said, I did have my cardiac catheterization done also right before my neck being done. And the whole thing with the menstrual cycle was still happening. I started working at a dermatology office, and I had a vaginal rejuvenation, and not the surgery, it was just a laser. And I noticed that my menstrual really started coming down at that point, and it was pretty painful when I got the procedure done, and it's not supposed to be. So that was something alarming to me where, again, I had to go and go to the doctor and get checked out again because now I had to try new pills again, and it just wasn't working. So I went to my primary care doctor and told them, hey, I think I have PCOS. And they said, oh, but you have a child already, that's uncommon. What are your symptoms? I told them everything, and they just told me, my blood work came back fine, that it wasn't that. So they did an ultrasound, and then they saw that, I did have some thick layering. So that could have been the cause, but the pills should have been working. So my fault for not keeping up on it either. I let a year go by, and it just was, I had my menstrual almost every day. And in 2018, I went to the doctor in May. I went to the emergency room in May because I was spotting so much and I was just so miserable from having my menstrual every day. And when I didn't have my menstrual, if me and my husband tried to have another kid a few times during this whole period, and it just wasn't happening. If anything, I would start bleeding heavier, and it was just really upsetting me and freaking me out at the same time because I had my son and I didn't want to have other children, but it just wasn't happening for me. And of course, everyone said, lose weight, your weight is part of the issue. Okay, well, I went to the ER because I was feeling super sick and just felt out of it. I was fainting at work and I just didn't have energy for anything. I didn't want to do anything, everything was just miserable to me. And they did some blood work and they came back and said, hey, your red blood cell count is low, you're very anemic, we have to do an emergency blood transfusion. We need you to sign the papers and we need to get you admitted and start working on you. So I did. I signed the paperwork. That was very scary. Never had to have a blood transfusion. Didn't know much about it. Never really thought, hey, that could happen. So that happened. They gave me 1 liter of, I don't know if it's 1 liter or 1 pint, but the bag that they usually have the saline in, they gave me one of those. And said that maybe they might have to give me a second one, but they were going to start with 1 and get me admitted onto the floor so they can continue testing. So Once they got me to the floor, they checked to see how my levels were doing every hour, just to see if, you know, the blood was reacting good or if my numbers were going higher. And I was actually going to the restroom and dumping pretty much all the blood that was going inside. It was like if I was having a miscarriage and I was, you know, having clots come out. I'm sorry for the descriptive stuff, but yeah, I did have huge clots coming out, and they were worried about it. So they ended up calling a gynecologist to come so that I can have an emergency DNC just to see what was happening, what was going on. After I got the DNC, I'm sorry, it's hard to talk about this. After I got the DNC, they ended up giving me the other blood and doing the iron. And they let me go once my levels got back to normal because they were waiting for the results. But it came back that, it came back that I did have endometrial cancer. And that I was in stage 2 already, and my progression was stage 2, so they needed to do something fast, and I needed to have a total hysterectomy. And that took me a while, and still, you can see, it still bothers me some because I did want more children, but you know, with God, anything is possible. And I'm just happy to be here with my son, and that, you know, he has his mom here. So after all of this, and the cancer, and the gaining weight, and the thyroid issues, and the pre-diabetic, I decided to go ahead and have weight loss surgery, and I've been in the process. This is going to be the second time that I try, because the first time was when I found out about the whole thyroid issue and had to have that surgery, so they wanted me to focus on that first before they would go in and do weight loss surgery. But yeah, I'm starting the process. I started it in, I want to say May, no, I think it was March. And I did a 6-month weight loss program that I started in February. And now I'm starting my journey, and yeah, just wanted to start and share with you guys and kind of track myself and hold myself accountable for, you know, what happens. Thank you.